sir.
Happy heresies and welcome to the desert of the real. Welcome to Aeon Bide on this age of Hermes, these Gnostic times, and this Philip K. Dick world. My name is Miguel Connor, and I am your Pompatus of Gnosis. So good that you have materialized here at the Virtual Alexandria, as I like to say. And again, very interesting times. I hear there is some sort of eclipse coming soon that will wipe out the world. But as the Gnostic said, the world ended before we were created, and we are just the remnants of the apocalypse floating in an ocean of existence, finding meaning and providing meaning and healing to the universe. There is a great story or ancient tale where an eclipse is simply the sun and the moon being allowed to have a relationship, allowed to have a little romantic tryst, because they are always separate when you think about it. Kind of like the movie Lady Hawk, but with the sun and the moon. If anybody remembers that great movie with Michelle Pfeiffer and Roy Batty. But today we are very excited, as always, to have David Block for the second part of his new trilogy. David, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Miguel. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you all, you and your audience, and Graham for the first time.
Pleasure is all ours. And yes, Vance is actually taking a much needed vacation. He will be unplugged for the next week or two. So with us, yes, we got Graham being the wingman. Graham, how are you doing?
Very good. Happy to give Vance some time to get hand rested and ready.
Indeed, we all need to unplug or take care of business sometimes, and that's a good thing. So awesome. I'm looking. Yes, we are live on YouTube. We are live on Rumble. There was a glitch for Rockfin, but for those of you who are subscribed on Rockfin, don't worry. I'll simply upload the video today, as probably today or tomorrow I will upload the audio version on all podcast providers. It happens. Such is the way during any Mercury retrograde, and it's been affecting me. So good to see everybody in the chat room. As always, if you have any questions, please super chat them so that Graham can separate them. And of course, we always really appreciate your support to keep the lights of the pleroma on here at Aeon Bite. So I don't have much housekeeping. Excited next week. We've got Alex Sekiris, who just wrote an incredible book. If you thought the ideas of James True and Jason Reza Georgiani on AI were incendiary, you ain't seen nothing yet, because what Alex Sekiris has found out about AI is probably even more disturbing and, yeah, really incredible. So check it out. That will be early next week, as well as a show on Welsh magic and archonic fairies from Andrew Philip Smith, traditional podcast, with my usual intro. So that's it. Well, David, shall we just get started?
Yeah, let's rock and roll.
Let's rock and roll. Let's see. There you go.
There we go. Yeah, this is the second part in the trilogy. The Tower, Necromancy, and the Search for Eternity. And it's the second part. And the last part I will decode the Lord of the Rings. And I hope it will be great. Of course, it is good to view the first two parts before you view the third part. That's the reason why it's the trilogy. Yeah, so this part has 5 parts and a prologue. And in the prologue, I want to take it back to the first part a little bit and even go deeper in the topics we talked about in the first part. Then we have part 1, Fingerprints of the Gods. Part 2, The Gods in Memory. Part 3, The Heart Beat of the Machine. Part 4, The Search for Eternity, and part 5, A Single Grain of Sand in the Desert of Seth. So let's start with the prologue, the Boatman. Yeah, I want to make a statement, and I will wrap up this part with the same statement in the end. When you die, you experience a boatman moment, meaning memory loss. When the seaman comes, you are reborn. In part 1, we talked a lot about Enki and the letter Mem in Hebrew. And this letter Mem, I will talk a lot about that in this part. But I will deepen the understanding of this Hebrew letter. And it is vast and a very multi-layered understanding of it. So I will try to take you a long way on this understanding of the letter Mem. But to go back to the first part, we talked about Mem. The meaning of it is memory, language, nations, and science. And this is a very profound thing, and I will talk about it in this part. And language leads to evolution or devolution. And I think people doesn't understand how important our language really are for us as a species. And I will try to make that point across. So bear with me a little bit on this part, because it will be a little bit funny, but it is a serious topic. Well, in this first part, again, we saw this bird came out or come with a bucket of water, and they have a pine cone in his hand. And the pine cone is a very important symbol here, because if you understand that water is memory and a gift that the gods gives to us, then it is also language is also a gift from the gods, right? So you have the cuneiform, for example, come from the Anunnaki gods. And the pine cone is also a symbol for your third eye. So you have language in connection with the third eye. And there is a reason for that as well, because language is about evolution, spiritual evolution. If you talk about devolution, then we talk about further fall into matter from a spiritual state. And you have this tree, they nurture this tree because you are part of nature, you are part of this energy pattern. And you are the most important part of that energy pattern. So let's start 3000 BC to about 500 BC. You can't make it like exact dates here. But during this period of time, we had a very symbolic language, like the cuneiform, like the hieroglyphs, like the runes, the Hebrew, the Phoenician, and even the Greek alphabet. And all this language was a very symbolic language, and each word have a meaning attached to it. For example, Mem means water. And this language stimulating a thinking of the spiritual. The spiritual world is at the forefront of this. You can argue that Greece is in between this and our new language. Our new language is a written language, it's a very scientific language, but it's not a symbolic language. I call this kind of a language in the middle of this language devolution we are in right now. So this is the middle part. I will talk about the form language soon. But now, for now, I will take you on a devolution path with language. And then we will go back to the oldest language. And the oldest language is about form and symbols. We all know, or probably know, that the cuneiform come from Sumer. And in this region, the Anunnaki appeared in about 3200 BC. And the first city was Eridu, and it was Enki's city. And it is Enki line that give us the written language in the form of a cuneiform. Enki's son was Marduk, and Marduk's son was Nabu. And it is Nabu who give us the written language. And another name for Nabu is, of course, Hermes or Tahuti or Thoth. It's the scribes of the gods. And he gives us the science of language. But cuneiform is a symbol language with many meanings and many different use for this language. We might view it as a simple language, but it is really profound if you want to aim at the metaphysical or at the spiritual level. And the aim during this period of time was more for the spiritual, metaphysical, not a written language that would describe the material realm in the first place, or in only matter. Like, how exact can we create a language that describes the phenomena in matter? That come about later on. And we can see this in the book of Daniel, for example. In the book of Daniel, we have this statue. They're talking about the head is gold, and the chest is silver, and then bronze and brass. And this is about devolution of humanity. How we fall from a state, golden state in Sumer and Babylon, to a very material world of matter. We lose the connection with the metaphysical, or with our spiritual spark, or the idea that human is a spiritual creature. That is devolution. Now remember, for them, this is devolution because they are very focused on the metaphysical and on the spiritual part of humanity. So the language make us devolve into matter, because language is a very important part of this evolution or devolution in man. So, for example, we have this famous tower incident, right? We have when the tower is destroyed, and the Bible is talking about how God fractured the language. He gave everyone his peculiar language, and for this reason it was that the city was called Babylon, or Babel, or Babel, because God fractured humanity, and we start to speak different language that we couldn't collectively gather around on a metaphysical spiritual aim or quest. After the incident, nations came about, and in one text, and there are many texts about this incident, and I can't read them all, of course. In this particular text, it says, when all men were of one language, some of them built a high tower, as if they would thereby ascend up to heaven. But the gods sent storms and wind and overthrew the tower, and gave everyone his peculiar language. And for this reason, it was that the city was called Babylon, or Babel. Now, there are much more going on in that story, and I hope you understand that. And we will explore a couple of them, because the language is in forefront of this symbology with the tower, and also a real incident where humanity starts to devolve from a higher state. But it's much more complicated than that, because it's also a war between different Anunnaki gods and factions. So let's go in today and talk about today's language. So this is Börje, a typical Swede working in his yard, right? And Börje have existed for like 2,000 years, or maybe 2,500 years. It is during this time our language started to describe what's in matter. So our language was aimed to describe things in the matter, not to try to talk about very advanced, difficult, metaphysical, spiritual subjects. And this Börje, don't be too happy about this now, because Börje is everywhere. He is in every country, in every town. And if there live two Börjes, two people in a city, one of them at least is a Börje, and maybe even both. And if you can imagine that the three are your own nation, then you start to get the grip of things there. And we are here today and even gone further down in matter. And this language divides us. We don't feel connected. We end up in conflict. These stupid discussions that people can't handle the idea of debate to come to a conclusion or to come to a higher understanding. No, language is about conquer, prove, win the debate. Language is not about the idea that both can gain knowledge in a discussion with another human being who doesn't agree with you. No, that is long gone. Now language is about power, as Nietzsche would have had it. Now we can even devolve further, right? The last 10 years, we have reached the end of this journey. So this is the typical random woke person, right? Now language has become about confusion, that's to confuse. And this is really a tower moment of Babel. Will to power is at the center of this. Conflict and truth doesn't matter anymore. Now the language has fractured the human race, because language is not about an agreement, understanding, or the idea that we both can benefit from a discussion with other people. No, that's long gone. And the idea that humanity is a spiritual creature and that language should be aimed at that endeavor, at the metaphysical first. Not only, but a language should be written in symbol terms, symbology, to stimulate the metaphysical concepts, the spiritual part in man. And this is long gone. And the one who promotes this is science. Lo and behold, universities, college, indoctrinate kids with this garbage, right? So the fracture of human race is at its peak. Now can we devolve further? Yeah, we have a last state here, but then it's all over, of course. In the end of human devolution, an ape-like state is awaiting for us. What does that mean? It means loss of language, loss of memory, an artificial human. Now, I don't say that we can really devolve into an ape in body. But what we are talking about is that we can really lose our memory and our ability to learn and speak a language, and then the human race will appear as a completely different species. So this is a very important thing, even though a little bit sad, because I think we can end up here pretty fast if we ain't understand this.
Yeah, for sure.
Doesn't take that much, really. Go and visit a primitive culture in a forest who haven't met a civilized human. I'm not saying that they are bad, but they are completely different from you. And I don't think we should go there. I don't think our destiny is to devolve, but to evolve. So let's go to the other side of the end of this, the evolution, and talk about the first language, even older than the hieroglyphs. Then we have to talk about sound and light and color. Sound is important here. Color is important here. The aim at the metaphysical is here. The spiritual side of the language is in the focus here. And I have a picture of Baphomet here. And you can see Ida and Pingala. The Kundalini is rising here. And you can do that. You as well can do this. Then this is a language. This is Mem. This is a language, and this a mantra. You use mantra to awaken the Kundalini serpent. And this language can be understood by all. Now, I'm not saying that Sanskrit is easy, but what I'm saying, that a mantra is not that hard. You have the classical Om, for example.
Right.
And if you use it in the right way, you will have results as all the rest of us. If you ain't too far removed, right? You will be able to rise the Kundalini serpent, and you will awaken the chakras, and you will start to stimulate your DNA, and you will become another creature. And this is a unifying language. It doesn't matter what country you are from, we can all meet and do this method with the aim to transform and become a bigger creature or a bigger human. Now you can misuse power as well. That's always a possibility. But this is the chakra language. And according to me, this is the kind of language we had before the flood. And of course, some of it survived even after the flood, as we can see. And this is really about your DNA. Because when you start to work with your spiritual body, with your metaphysical you, yourself, through a method, through a language, you can start to ignite your DNA. Now you can become something completely different from the walk, right? So this is the furthest away. This is the other side of this. This is two completely different mindsets, where the woke mentality is to talk some gobbledygook, to have some power in the matter, right? This is a very straightforward language. This is a method. Do it like this, and you will start to transform, and you will ignite your DNA, and you will go further. And this is really what should be the aim of the human race, of course. Now, we can discuss what kind of results we want when we work with this, of course. So that's a reason why Enki is considered the scientist. And in the stories, he is the one who manipulated with the human DNA in order to transform us to a higher state. He didn't slice and dice us. He has taught us another language. I think people have a very like they see everything in matter. Therefore, he slices and dies. He doesn't really have to do that. He can transform our DNA by teaching us a new language. So now we can start to understand this symbol with the reptilian bird with it, or angel, or what you want to attribute to him. He has a bucket of water, and that is memory, language, nation, science. In it, he has a pine cone, because your third eye will start to work when this is rising around you, like the cities, the temples, the priest class, the esoteric, the nature, and for a moment of time, humanity is in this state. But of course, it starts to devolve pretty fast. Doesn't last. So, in the text, we can read about Enki in Enmerkar and the Lord of Arata. Enki, the Lord of abundance and true word, the Lord chosen in wisdom, who watches over the land, the expert of all the gods, the chosen in wisdom, the Lord of Eridu. Enki placed an alteration of the language in their mouth, meaning changing our DNA. Be careful with how you speak and what kind of a language you choose to use, because it will have an impact on you. Now, I'm not saying that you should go and learn some new language here, but if you know what it means, then you will be a little bit more careful and maybe think that, maybe I should learn a metaphysical language as well as my language I was born with, and understand and respect what the language should be. Now we come back to Alo and the Watchers, and the Watchers is a big part of this story as well, of course. And Queen Nama stated thus: even something as seemingly lifeless as your temple floor is in a state of constant movement and change. In fact, through the eyes of the Watchers, the human race is perceived this way. No matter how chaotic and busy you think your experience is, your evolution has come to a point of still lifelessness, Queen Nama. Because we have devolved so far away from the spiritual, and our language is only there to confuse and to have some power in matter. In the material world, the language reflects our state of being as a race. Another watcher who came to Earth was Ramuel. And Ramuel stated this: Ramuel's teaching has been stripped from humanity and defiled to serve the ruling hierarchies of corrupt men. He teaches mankind to become noble leaders in their chosen field as a springboard of evolution. He views leadership today as a stagnant, oppressive role taken by oppressors. He teaches the expansion of community and how to create harmony by spreading knowledge. So what they are talking about here, of course, that they have taken this knowledge from us and misuse it, and that is a chosen elite who have distorted knowledge, distorted language, turn it against us. I want to take you back to Odin as well, and the Well of Mimir. And I will expand upon it. In the first part, I talked about the eye and so on. Well, the Well of Mimir, the well was guarded by Mimir, a shadowy being who becomes all-knowing by drinking the magical waters. Odin asked for a drink, and Mimir replied that Odin must sacrifice an eye for a drink. Odin gouged out his own eye, dropped it into the well, and was allowed to drink from the waters of cosmic knowledge. And here we come, of course, back to water and what it means. Water is memory, memory is knowledge, and also a metaphysical concept that you can talk about astral water, to travel into metaphysical water. So there's many layers of meaning here, and you have to be able to see them all at one time in front of you to really get what they're talking about. So the right eye. O all-powerful serpent, breathe upon my right eye and empower all means of our ward perception. Let the diurnal organs of sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell be transformed into vehicle for the direct apprehension of all manifest realities. May the sacred vision of the dextral gaze here become mine to behold. So the right eye have one thing, and there is one thing, and the left eye is another thing. It's two different concepts we're talking about. One eye is the eye you see into matter, and also the ability to manifest things in matter. The left eye is to see into the metaphysical and the spiritual world. So it makes a difference what eye Odin sacrificed here. And we go back, I will come back to that soon. So the left eye, what is the left eye about? O all-powerful serpent, breathe upon my left eye and empower all means of inward perception, to have the gaze in to the metaphysical and into yourself. Left the oneric organs of sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell be transformed into a vehicle for the clear apprehension of all that is conceived through divine imagination. May the sacred vision of the sinister gaze here become mine to behold. And that is the eye to see through the illusion to the metaphysical and also see within yourself. Right eye to see things in matter. It is outward. The left eye to see inward and into a metaphysical, spiritual. The right eye ended up on the bottom of the well, and this is the eye Odin sacrificed. Right, he sacrificed the right eye, dropped it into the well, and through it, Odin could see everything he needed to see. He didn't have to drink from the water that was offered to him, because he already knew through his eye water to see through memory, because the eye ended up in the water of the well. Now he started to turn into a boatman, because he started to perceive the different realms through time and space. Right eye, taste and smell be transformed into vehicle for the direct apprehension of all manifest realities. But he had his left eye still. So Odin is a kind of a boatman person or archetype. But you have to sacrifice. You have to work. Nothing is gained for free. Now, I'm not telling you to sacrifice your right eye, right? But the the symbology is here is that it is a struggle, and you have to be prepared to sacrifice a lot of things to gain insight and understanding of these different realms, of the ability of necromancy. So that is the end of the prologue. And we continue on with part 1, and that's the fingerprints of the gods. And I want to talk a little bit about your blood in your body. And I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but it's good to talk about it again and hammer home the idea, because it will be in combination of this new material as well. The blood of Kingu, Belial. And Kingu is Belial. Kingu is another name for Belial. And Kingu is the ancient one. And Kingu was the warrior that chose side with Tiamat. And Tiamat and Kingu is the ancient one waging war against the Anunnaki gods. Or the opposite around, depends on what you want to believe. And it was Marduk who defeated Kingu and Tiamat. The blood is in your veins. The Kingu blood is in your veins, in your power to connect to the metaphysical. Blood is memory. And you, according to myth, have the opportunity to contact the Ancient One. So it doesn't matter what they do to you, you will still have the opportunity or the knowledge how to connect back to the Ancient Ones. And the best way for them is to convince you that you can't. This is a war over, this is about manipulation and a war over your mind, really. But as long as you have your blood in your veins, you have the ancient blood within you, and they can't take that away. I think they will try, like maybe create a kind of a blood that drains, like replace your real blood with artificial kind of a blood. I don't know.
They'll try something, you know.
Yeah, for sure. So the blood of man is the blood of the ancient ones. And the ancient ones was considered to be chaos, right? Therefore, the ruling elite view you as chaos as well. They view you as a potential chaos horde, and they have to control you. And we can see this today more than ever, I think. It is not more in your face today, but because of our technology and so on, we can talk about it and we can reflect upon it. In Roman time, you were a slave and they just told you that upright front, and no one thought it was strange or anything. Today they have to pretend that you are free, but you are a slave under society rules and so on. So if you come to the myth of the vampire, for example, a vampire takes your power and your memory, and that is a form of necromancy. They steal your memory from you and get powered up by it. And this is very similar to what the gods do. This war is about memory and mind. And it's very important that you start to understand how powerful you can be in mind. That's the reason why they have to manipulate you, to convince you that you are only an animal, that you don't have any metaphysical spiritual component to you, attached to you. They don't want you to start ever. And the language is a very powerful tool aimed against you. Part 2, the gods in memory. So let's dive into this memory thing and why it's so important. And mind. The power of the gods come from our memory. The gods in turn can become the power source for humanity. So this is a very profound statement, and I will go into it and explain it much more. So once again, water is memory. When we worship the gods, a god egregore starts to build up through memory, our memory. The individual Boatman moment, death, erases our memory, but the gods lives on. So because we have a very short lifespan, we forget about our previous life and we have to start all over again. But the gods lives on. So we continue to power them up through our memory. And we become dependent on them to get back some of our memory we have given away to them. We become dependent on the gods because we have no power, we have no memory. And a very good movie talking about this is, of course, Dark City.
Classic Gnostic movie.
Yeah. I highly recommend you to see it after this presentation because this is it's a lot about
yeah.
that. Yeah, let's talk about this Jehovah God then. Who is he?
Think we've met before.
I looked pissed off as always.
Yeah.
I tried to find a picture that portrayed him very well. Right, Exodus 20:3-5, King James Version. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. He wants all your attention. He wants all your memory. He wants all your mind. No other God shall be powered up by your memory and your force and your energy, your attention. And this egregore God will, of course, grow stronger. He warned them that wealth, friends, and those they married could distract them from focusing on him because he wants everything. The golem god Jehovah is born, powered up by your memory, with you in mind. Mem. So he's not he's telling you as it is. He doesn't try to say something that is straightforward with this one, right? So memory is also trauma, darkness, jealousy, and hidden impulses in man. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the inquiety of fathers on the children or to the third and the fourth generation of those who hate me. Sounds a lot like a human to me.
Yeah.
It's
Or
because,
maybe a little toddler, a little 3-year-old.
Yeah, because we have powered him up through us. Veins of gold. Carl Jung said, the shadow is 90% pure gold. Sometimes when we have nightmares or dream of disturbing or disgusting things like death or overflowing toilets, we want to turn away from our inner world. We think we all only find darkness there. That we think we will only find darkness there. But underneath the refuse, underneath the repression, there are veins of gold. Meaning that you can transform all of that if you dare to go within. And that's only up to you and no one else. The transformed trauma can turn into gold if you're willing to work with it. That is what Carl Jung is saying here. Anunnaki came from heaven to earth with gold in mind. Fear, trauma, suffering is the fuel of Jehovah and his son, the demiurge. The shadow stored in memory. And memory is also language, water, blood, and DNA, your gold. So if you don't want to transform, and if you focus on these gods to help you, to save you, you give away your gold. You have to transform. You have to dig up the gold. You shouldn't give it away to an external force and pray for help. That makes you passive and it will not take you anywhere. If you don't transform your shadow, trauma, and pain, the gods will mine it for you. If you worship Enlil, Ninurta, Jesus, you will give away your gold to an external force. You have to transform it. Religion makes you passive for a reason. Wait for Jesus, beg for help. Because you suffer under fear, you will not transform it yourself. Then the gold will never be yours as well. And that's how it is. You have to be active. You have to work with yourself. You have to find your own gold and then lift it to the surface. And when you see it, you have to transform it. No one else will do it for you. They will mine it for you, but they will not transform it. And there are a lot of humans waiting to abuse you if you don't transform your traumas. They are very happy about that. Even humans mine your gold if you ain't careful. And I say, don't give anything to anyone. I'm a left-hand path practitioner. I say, non serviam. Do not serve. You are your own master. Take it back. Gods, angels, demons, and spirits exist outside of you as plasma, but you give them power with your memory. The gods grows in power in memory. You don't, because you forgot the past when you die. And when you die, it is a Boatman moment. You have to figure out how to take back the memory. Now you are blank. This is an individual Boatman moment. What we are talking about with Noah is a collective Boatman moment, where the human as a race are wiped clean, and we have to start all over again.
Makes sense.
If the Boatman fails, we don't have to fail. I'm not here to doom and gloom. I tell you, there is a way through this water, and that we should take it.
Yeah, if you were doom and gloom, you'd be like, send me $30 and I'll help you. Everybody, $29.99 for salvation.
I will put up the PayPal account.
Right. Yeah. Get rich at the end of the world.
No, I will refuse. I want to empower you, and that's the reason. That's my true will. And I'm here to do it. I'm not about doom and gloom. It's up to us if we want to survive this storm. Reaching the limits of the human mind. When we have reached the limits of the mind, the mining stops. The bodily death becomes a necessity. We have become a threat to them. Too much noise or memory means the flood. If you remember Enlil, Jehovah didn't like the noise we were making, and therefore he thought, let's drown these humans in the flood. Well, Enlil Jehovah can be overflooded with our memory. And in the end of this journey, as we are today, now not the end, but in an apocalyptic moment, that we will go through a big change, then the noise is at its peak, because our trauma, the shadow, has built up within us over and over again. At the same time, we have become powerful as well, because trauma can be used in other ways. We can transform our trauma and become very powerful and knowledgeable. And we can start to understand what I'm saying right now. Then we can take back everything. This polarity is important. When we're farthest away, it is easiest to see what we have lost. Wait a minute. What has happened? How did we end up here in this horrible situation? And what can we do about it when we see down the hill, the emptiness, and that we are heading for it? We will turn around when we face it. What kind of a God? What kind of a God do you think we have created? After a generation of untransformed floods of memory that have powered up this golem God with fear, trauma, and aggression. Because we haven't been willing to transform it. Now we are here. And when we start to face all this trauma and this darkness, it will become very harsh for us because we have closed our eyes to it for so long. We haven't faced it, and we have become passive to it, and even manipulated to be passive about it. Wait for Jesus. Jesus will fix your trauma, and if you are at least a good girl and boy, you will end up in heaven. Make you passive, right? Sit and hear some gobbledygook bullshit from a priest. Doesn't know what he's talking about, right? And the Bibles are written with a certain language. We have to understand the power of language once again. What language did they choose to write the Bible in? It has been a bastardization of the subject in the Bible as well. The Old Testament was written in Hebrew or Aramaic. In that language, you have to understand the language if you want to understand the Old Testament. If you translate it with our language, you lose the meaning in it. That goes for the newer version as well, the New Testament. What language? Why do people prefer King James Version? There's a huge difference. So in part 3, I want to talk about the heartbeat of the machine. And the machines, because this tower they are building and have built. And a very interesting person called Flavius Josephus lived like 50 after Christ to 100. Worked for the Flavians, and he write the history of the Jews, and is a very important person in Rome, history of Rome. And he is writing about this Tower of Babel. He, Nimrod, also gradually changed the government into tyranny, seeing no other way of turning men from the fear of God, but to bring them into a constant dependence on his power. He also said he would be revenged on God if he should have a mind to drown the world again, for that he would build a tower too high for the waters to be able to reach, and that he would avenge himself on God for destroying their forefathers. So he's talking about the water that cannot reach the tower. And water is memory loss, can be language loss, nation loss, the connection to the metaphysical, to the spiritual loss, a fall into matter. And the human race get splintered and talk different language and doesn't understand each other anymore. He continues on. The Sibyl also makes mention of this tower and of the confusion of the language. But as to the plan of Shinar in the country of Babylonia, Hestasius mentioned it when he says thus: such of the priests as were saved took the sacred vessel of Jupiter and Ialius and came to Shinar of Babylonia. What do they mean by vessel of Jupiter? Of course, there are many meanings in this, and some of them are very deep into metaphysical and into the Sephiroths and so on. So there are many layers of understanding. That goes for tarot and so on as well. So I'm only talking about the layers that is important for this presentation. So don't tell me that I know it means a lot of things, right? Now, Jupiter, they're talking about Jupiter, vessel of Jupiter. What can that be? What is this priest class? Well, it can really mean two different things, or different priest class at least. Because Marduk and Enlil, both of them is attributed to Jupiter. And it's really a war between them of the forces of Jupiter. So Enlil had Jupiter to begin with, and then Marduk took over, and then Enlil took over after Marduk. And I will say that Enlil took over when the Tower of Babylon fell. It was an infiltration. So when Marduk has the 50 names and is attributed to Jupiter, Marduk is the one who rules. When Enlil is attributed to Jupiter and he is attributed to the number 50, he is the one who rules over matter, our reality, our matrix, or what you want to call it. So it's a war here between two different factions of Anunnaki who are going to rule over the human kind and their perception of reality. Because the one who rules our perception of reality rules over us as well. So it's very hard to see what's going on, because sometimes it seems that Enlil is in charge, and sometimes it seems that Marduk is in charge.
Right.
And a lot of propaganda is going on here, of course. It's very nice to say, Enlil, I am the god of gods and you should rule me. And then humanity start to focus on Enlil and take off their focus on Marduk. And then Enlil get empowered by our focus. So there's a lot of manipulation for the human mind. Because the mind is the one they are aimed at. Our mind are very powerful. And we can manifest our own reality through our belief in different things, in gods and so on. That becomes our reality. And the egregore starts to build up. Flavius, to have it, Nimrod, priest of Marduk, is Seth. But I would say that Nimrod becomes corrupt after the fall of the tower, or he is there to infiltrate the priesthood of Marduk. Nimrod becomes a priest of Ninurta, meaning Nimrod becomes a priest of Saturn, because Ninurta is Saturn and Ninurta is Jehovah's son. But I think he started out as a priest of Marduk, but become corrupt and infiltrated the Marduk fold. And I will back this claim up as much as I can, of course. I will come back at it. But as you can see, it's a war over the human mind. It's a manipulation game going on here. Let's back off a little bit from the Anunnaki gods. I will come back to it soon. But we have a very important myth from Egypt as well, talking about similar things. And I will go into how it's connected more later on. But you have the myth of Osiris and Isis, and it's about sex magic. And Osiris was cut into 14 pieces. Because there are ladies around here, I call it his rod, right? But his rod is missing. Resurrection and rebirth. This is about resurrection and rebirth. If we go into the tarot card, this myth is in the cards. And you can read it in card number 13, Death, where Osiris is death, dies. And he's cut into 14 parts. That's next card, of course, 14 parts. And in the Death card in Crowley's deck, you will see the fish there, because the fish took Osiris' rod. And of course, the fish is a nun. In Hebrew, the letter nun is a fish. Someone is cutting up Osiris or destroy the Stargate that leads to Sirius. And someone is trying to resurrect that Stargate. And that is Isis through sexual magic. And you can see the lady in card number 14 is mixing masculine force, the fire, and the water, the feminine force, into cauldron. And this is, of course, alchemy. And the next card is the devil. When you do this, you have to overcome the devil. And once again, there are many, many layers of meaning here. So I'm only talking about the meaning that is attributed to this presentation. Then you have to overcome the devil, because this is a alchemical, esoteric process. And when you do this, you have to overcome your own ego. Otherwise, you can start to do all kinds of stuff, because you gain power and knowledge. And you can use this knowledge for different purposes. If you fall prey to the devil or Saturn or matter, then the tower will follow. Because now you enter the tower archetype, a fallen esoteric elite. And now to reach this gate becomes about technology instead of spirit. Because you can go to Sirius with spirit, with soul, with light. But the elite can't, because they have lost it. They will do it through technology instead. They have not given up. They are the ones who will build the tower to achieve the goal. So you have the death card, cutting up Osiris in 14 pieces. Isis find the parts of Osiris and put them together, didn't find his rod or penis, and do a sexual magic ritual to resurrect Osiris. Meaning that you can resurrect Osiris within you. But if you fall prey to the devil, your own ego, you will start to fall and misuse the knowledge. And then the tower becomes a necessity for you to reach Sirius. Why reach Sirius? I will talk about it. One thing to note is when I did the decoding of the Shining, I had this 13, 14, and 15, it becomes 42. The number 42 means completion. But completion can mean different things. If you aim with your spirit to achieve or to go to Sirius, the number 42 means that you have achieved your goal. But if you do it through the tower, it means 42 when you have achieved your goal through technology. It's a completion of your aim, what's in your mind. And the tower card means a lot of things, right? So I'm not saying that this is the... There are much more profound things to be found there.
Right.
After the tower, we have the card, the star card, number 17. And we can see in the right white deck, a woman pouring water to create boundaries between energy. And the pentagram is about boundaries and to separate different energies, realities from each other, to create boundaries. And in the Crowley deck, we have this beautiful lady pouring the sun in the sun grail, and it becomes the moon, water, and pouring fire into water. And then you have the star, silver star, in the left corner, and that star is Sirius. So you have Sirius after the tower card. The tower is aimed at Sirius because some people have fallen prey to their own ego and want this knowledge for themselves in order to control others, to boost their own ego. They are still an esoteric elite because they are the ones who are in charge right now, but they have lost their soul spark. Technology becomes their way because that's the only way. They can go into the astral, but they cannot go further than the astral. Then they need technology to do it. You can go further than the astral with knowledge, power, your spirit, your soul. A very interesting myth in Sumer. And it's about the Pyramid Wars. And the Anunnaki gods is in the forefront of this conflict as always. And it's always between these two lines, right? Enki line and Enlil line. And in this myth, Marduk becomes trapped in the pyramid on Giza Plateau. And the incident is called the Pyramid Wars. And it is Ishtar. And Ishtar is a daughter of Enlil who traps Marduk in this pyramid. And it's a huge war. It's not only these two who are at each other, but there are armies, technology, a lot of things going on here, of course. Gods exist outside of you, plasma. So this is a statement that angels, gods, demons are a form of plasma. I'm not saying that they don't exist outside of you, but you can build them up through your mind by focusing on them. You can charge plasma with memory. and thus make them more powerful through you. But you give them power with your memory. The gods grows in power in memory. You don't, because you forgot the past when you die. And this Marduk is trapped in the pyramid. What does it mean? Trapped. Can you trap a god in a pyramid? Yes, you can. If the pyramid is a certain technology and the gods is plasma, then you can trap them. And Azazel have stated that he is trapped in the Saturn moon Mimas. And Mimas seems to be artificial. And if Azazel is a kind of a plasma, then we can understand what they are talking about. You can trap plasma. You can trap the force of the gods. And of course, there are lots of stories with jinns in bottles. You have demons in. You have the stupid horror movie, The Doll.
Yeah.
A lot of myth about it, but there is a reality to it. And crystal, I think, is a good thing to trap spirits as well. Crystal stones, diamonds, and so on. You trap energy. Marduk's name in Egypt was Amun-Ra, and I think everyone knows that name. But not that many know that it is Marduk-Ra under another name. So this is the same god. And the pyramid is Enki's machine, as I talked about in the first part, right? The pyramid is technology, it is water, it is memory, and the pyramid pumps up water from underneath, and it is really a kind of a nuclear plant. And the nuclear plant is Enki's machine. It is science, tech, water, and you can create heavy water with it, and then you can create nuclear weapons with it. That's science, and that is power, force, and also a metaphysical endeavor. At least when we come to nuclear weapons. Now it's become very tricky because we don't know what they're talking about sometimes. Sometimes it seems to talk about Enlil, sometimes it seems to talk about Enki. Who are they talking about?
Right.
Because Jupiter sometimes is attributed to Marduk, and sometimes it is attributed to Enlil. And the number 50 attributed to Enlil and Marduk means fish. It is none. And this is very interesting, but also very confusing. Ra, Marduk, Ra, and Enki. Enki name seems to be Yahweh sometimes in the Old Testament. Enlil's name seems to be Jehovah. But sometimes it seems to mean Enlil when they attribute him with the name Yahweh. Sorry, I spelled it wrong there. Yahweh, it should be Yahweh. So Jehovah or Yahweh might be two different gods when they speak about this in the Old Testament. Sometimes it seems that they are different gods. But Yahweh is inscribed in one of the pyramids. Therefore, either it is Enki's machine, as I said, or is it Enlil? Because we don't know, do they mean Yahweh and Jehovah is the same God with two different names, or are we attribute them to Enlil and Enki? Well, I think we can make a little bit more sense of this. For example, when Enki rises up from the sea, from the ocean, with a bucket and to spread civilization again after a Boatman moment, after our collective memories wiped clean, and we have to start all over again, a new civilization. he seems to come up with a fish suit on him. And of course, Enki is attributed to Poseidon and water. But once again, even Enlil is attributed with fish, with the letter none and the number 50. What are they saying here? Are they saying that Enki is disguised as an Enlil asset? That he is walking Enlil's errands? Do they say that Enki is under Enlil? In the end, he has to take his command from Enlil anyway? That he is not completely free to act on his own? That he has Enlil as a god above him that calls the shot? Then Enki is more of a puppet, a marionette under Enlil. And he is dressed in this fish suit, or he is doing Enlil's errand. You can also say that these forces need to coexist, and we need them both in order to restart civilization, that they are codependent on each other. You can have a lot of different speculation, different takes on it, of course. So what is this about? Well, we can say a couple of things about this pyramid. We can say this pyramid is about plasma, gods, DNA, and mining gold. Because if the pyramid is a machine that can track plasma, then surely you can enhance that plasma, charge that plasma by allowing humanity to focus on that endeavor. Or you can do it opposite. You can trap a god and try to distract the knowledge from that god into a priest class. What's going on? But it seems to be that these pyramids they have a lot of different purposes. And a lot of people think they are good, they are here to help us. I beg to differ. I view them as nefarious reasons behind them. Maybe they were built with a good aim from the beginning, I don't know. But as all technology can be altered, changed, and it can take different forms. And that is exactly what they do right now. For example, they gave us internet and computers, and now they use it against us. And that was the aim from the beginning, of course. Even so much so that they risk our awakening through their own technology. But this is an apocalyptic moment where either we rise up above this or we become trapped within the technology they put forth in front of us. If we get mesmerized by it and use it for material gain and stuff like that, I think we will fall prey to it. If we use it for the right reasons, then I think we will gain power. And hopefully we do it today, right? We can communicate, and we are from different countries. That's a wonderful thing.
We're here right now, yeah.
So we can spread knowledge, have a discussion. In this text, there are very interesting things with Ninurta. And as I said, Ninurta is Saturn, Ninurta is Enlil's son. He is from the Enlil side of this. And Ninurta in this text goes about and destroys the pyramids. He attacks the pyramid on Giza, destroys the capstone. It seems to be destroying pyramids they found a pyramid in Bosnia, for example, Antarctica, I would say, they have pyramids. So he goes around the planet to destroy these pyramids. Ninurta, the demiurge, Jehovah's son, starts the new building project. And maybe it is now that the mining really takes form. the idea to use and abuse humanity. At least we can see that the idea to worship Jehovah and this idea that you have to die if you don't obey and focus your attention to it is a trauma, memory, stealing endeavor to take your gold. Maybe it was that purpose from the beginning, but he wanted to take over that technology under him, to have control over it, to take over after the Marduk priest class. For example, we have the Aztecs start to sacrifice, and they start to sacrifice when the Christian came over. I don't know what they manipulated the Aztecs with, but they were sacrificing on top of their own pyramids suddenly to a sun god. Once again, we have the idea of mining our trauma, fear, pain, mining gold. And it seems that the Aztecs started mimicking the Enlil Jehovah attributes. Part 4, the search for eternity. Now we come to Osiris again, and Orion. And Osiris was cut into 14 parts, splitting a gateway or shutting it down, destroying it. Did they do it for technology, or did they do it for manipulation of the human mind? Maybe both. The Stargate goes from Orion's belt, the 3 stars. And if you follow the belt, you will end up at Sirius. You follow the straight line of it. There you have Sirius. And Sirius is a very important star in the most of esoteric tradition, at least the Western esoteric traditions. The Freemason had a Sirius, OTO was into Sirius, so it goes on and on. And the structure that existed before the flood seems to be aimed at Sirius. The temple was built to have a line or a view of Sirius. Why Sirius? Another name for Sirius is Sotis. And another name is Seth. Seth star is Sirius. And Enki star is Sirius. And Dagon star is Sirius. So what's going on? A lot of different gods attributed to the same star. And of course, once again, it is a war for our attention and the goal they want to manifest through us. But in this glyph, you can see an obelisk, a star, and a egg shape or half cup. It's the moon, of course. An obelisk is, of course, Osiris' rod, or the penis of Osiris. Well, if you have lost the ability to do it with metaphysical, through the spiritual side of you, then you start to do it with technology. And to get at Sirius, you have to aim at our sun. And in the CERN logo, you have 666. And the 666 number is a number of the black sun. And Sirius is the black sun. It is the sun behind the sun. And another number for Sirius is 33. Well, this numbers is the number 666 is the aim at Sirius, but you have to go through our sun. It seems to be a stargate. And if you go through our sun, you seems to be able to reach Sirius. And we have had contact with Sirius before, but lost it. Therefore, Orion was cut into 14 pieces, or the Stargate was closed. Maybe after the flood. Seems to be a lot of memory loss, shattering of structures, loss of nation, language, and collective memory, or understanding of the metaphysical. And I know I talk a lot about CERN, but CERN is the new Babel, the new tower. It's not the only part of it, but it's a very important part of it, at least. And some say that the Sirius is our twin sun and that they are dancing around each other. And when they do, they create the womb, or the Piscapiscis, the fish. And it looks like a female genitalia. So certain dates make this energy, or the connection between these stars, more enhanced. And it's 4th and 5th of July, and that's USA's National Day. And in the flag you have the star of Sirius, and CERN is very often started up 4th or the 5th of July, and I would suggest aimed at our sun. At least the last time after they have worked very hard on CERN to fix a couple of things with CERN, it had been down for a couple of years, and when they started it up again, they started up the 5th of July, if I remember correctly, the 4th or 5th of July. That is exactly the date when they are close to each other in energy pattern, Sirius and our sun, according to astrology. But if you are a boatman, you don't want to use technology, because you are the technology you need. You are the temple you need. Your body is your temple. You don't need these people. You don't need their technology. They need the technology, but you don't. This is not a pipe dream. This is method. When you start to awaken your chakra, when you work with yourself through method, you will also be able to start to travel into the metaphysical. And you have both the eye, the left eye, and the right eye. The ability to see through the illusion to the metaphysical, the left eye, and the eye to see in matter. Because you need both. Because when you look up the skies and you see Sirius beautiful up there, right? It is through your right eye. You see it as a physical object and you take aim at it. There I want to go.
Right.
And you start to program your brain. There is my star. There is my aim. There is my metaphysical aim I want to achieve. What you program your mind with is very important. It becomes your reality. And this is a huge aim. And if you do it, you are a boatman. You are the archetype of the tower if you try to do the same with technology. So these forces are really the same coin, but two different sides of that coin. The one want to use the spirit to go to Sirius, the other want to use Tower, the technology, to reach Sirius. And the words and the language used is the mantras. The Hebrew alphabet is important and it's very powerful. The watchers have stated that the Hebrew alphabet is very, very powerful and is really like a mandala, every letter of it. And you can meditate upon it and use the Hebrew alphabet to get results with it. And what we have talked about today is the letter Mem. And as you can see, only that letter, only Mem, is such a powerful thing when you start to understand what it is all about. When you start to understand the importance of language, you have come far. When you really grasp it. The Throat Chakra is about language. And language is not only to express things to others, but also to talk to yourself. It is the metacognitive abilities to teach yourself what's important and to discern, because what you program yourself with will become your reality. If you don't want to use your language to see inside of yourself, then you are stuck. If you want to push it outside of yourself, pray to Jesus, pray to God, whatever, you will not transform. To communicate with yourself is to make yourself aware what your aim is, what you want. You need your metacognitive abilities to judge yourself, to see yourself from an outside perspective in the eyes of other people. How are you perceived? And how are you perceived by yourself? Do you have a false image of yourself? Is it true? Are you honest? Or do you deceive yourself? If you deceive yourself, you will not transform the trauma, your shadow, into gold. That starts with an honest voice towards yourself. Throat chakra. Now your DNA can start to transform. Now the mantras, the words, the colors, sigils, whatever method you do, start to matter. First the aim, the vision. What do you want to achieve? Who are you? Why are you here? What's your purpose? Crowley would say, what is your true will? And everyone has a purpose. At least everyone who has started to awaken to the metaphysical. You can find it. You can find your higher self, your diamond. Because you don't know who you are for real. There is a more real you, a one that haven't been programmed yet by the light. So this is part 5, Desert of Seth. And I have to talk a little bit about Sola Busca again. Sorry if I nag on with it, but this time I want to talk about Sola Busca in combination with this information. In the deck we have the phrase Tra hor fatis, I am drawn by fate. What do they mean by this, and who are the people who created this deck from 1470. It was ordered by the family de Este from Venice. This family de Este is very interesting. At least they are portrayed with elongated skulls. So you have to ask yourself, did they have elongated skulls? Or did they want to be portrayed with elongated skull? And of course, we cannot answer that. But if we agree that language and so on can have an impact on our DNA and really change our appearance, then the elongated skull may be a result from a unifying metaphysical language that have struck a tone within their DNA and allow them to grow elongated skulls because of the DNA change through language used. Then the elongated skull might not be an alien. If you're into an alien paradigm, right, everything is alien.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that it is other species than us either. Maybe our DNA resonate and then our body follows. And if that is true, then you can find many different humanoid races. It's still us, but have taken a different shape and form because their DNA resonate different than ours. Because they have a different language. And the language is basis of this. How we can talk about ourselves and our surrounding, the material world, that make a shift in you and the body follows and take a certain shape and form. And maybe even the giants is part of this. Maybe they ain't that different from us. And I think in a certain time, there were many different races. Maybe same race, but different shapes. Depends on when a race become a race, right? Then you have to have that discussion as well. But you get what I try to say here. So back to Nimrod again. I think Nimrod started out as a priest of Marduk, but Nimrod became corrupt. And this was after the fall of the tower. Nimrod becomes a priest of Ninurta, Jehovah's son, Saturn, the demiurge. Now, as I said before, I'm not talking ill about Saturn as if it is Saturn is a planet or maybe a star. What I am talking about is the force behind Saturn. Right. And if you can manipulate that force, that energy, and if you allow humanity to focus all the trauma and so on onto this force, then that is what we will power it up with. So I'm not talking that the star or the planet Saturn is evil. When we come to the Rothschild, at least, we know that they attribute their own relatives to Nimrod. They are from the Nimrod bloodline. And for example, they have named one of the sons to Albert Anselm Solomon Nimrod von Rothschild. And he lived between 1922 to 1938. But they have stated themselves that they are descendants of Nimrod. Of course, they can lie. Of course, they can claim that. But at least they want to be attributed to Nimrod. Why? They have a certain DNA pattern. They have DNA pattern from the gods. and Nimrod has certain attribute as a Ninurta priest class. Now this priest class in Sumeria, who worship these gods, they mimic the attribute of the gods, and therefore the DNA at least start to resonate with that force. So when they say they are Ninurta, Nimrod is Ninurta, I am the god. No, I think you should think of it as I am Nimrod, the priest of Ninurta, try to mimic my god the best I can and spread Ninurta's will on earth. Do his bidding on earth. Act through Ninurta. So we can see that Nimrod is very close to a couple of phenomena that will always appear when we talk about this esoteric elite, right? We always come back to banking, for example, war and sacrifice. And war and sacrifice create trauma and pain to power up Saturn, Ninurta, the eternal return under Saturn rule. Remember, these people cannot go anywhere they can. They can go to the astral, but no further than that through their soul and through the light. Therefore, the idea to transcend the matrix is not an option for them, through soul at least. Now, they will not give up. Of course, they have a belief that maybe they can crack the code through technology. But it seems to be a hard endeavor for them. And it seems that they will always start all over again. And in the Sola Busca Tarocchi, you have this theme. And this free card is from the Major Arcana. And you have the first card, the Zero card, the Fool. You will see a piper and a man. He doesn't look that good. And of course, that's a reference to the book of Daniel, where the king Nebuchadnezzar start to eat grass and behave like a wild animal. And Nebuchadnezzar is also represented in card number 21. And that is the word, the universe card. And you see he's sitting beside a table, and his crown is laying on the table, and he seems to fail. And Nebuchadnezzar wanted to rebuild the Tower of Babylon. He strived for it and wanted to build it in Sumer. But he didn't succeed. He succeeded in that they really built the tower, but not in Sumer, but in Jerusalem. Because they released the Jewish people to rebuild their tower, their temple, second temple, Solomon, with money from Babylon. And that temple was called Surababel, or from Babel. In the middle of this card, you have the card number 20, and you have Nimrod. And he's standing there, and you can have different understanding of this card. Is he destroying the temple? Or does he view in horror when someone else destroys the temple? You can have different ideas about this. But because I come to the conclusion I have come to conclude that he is either, it's very hard, but if he look on in horror when they destroy the temple, this is the moment where he go over to Enlil, the Ninurta faction, and become corrupt and infiltrate them. But there are a lot of things that's in the mythology that say that he was there to infiltrate Marduk already and was there to destroy their endeavor to rise the temple. And Ninurta or Nimrod, Ninurta and Nergal destroyed it. But Nimrod could act out their will. Doesn't matter. You can have different understanding of it. But the fact is, you can see here that Nebuchadnezzar is the first card and the last. Seems to imply that we are going in circles. They build the tower, it falls, they have to start all over again from a primitive state of being because the language is shattered when the temple is shattered. Loss of language. And Josephus talked about to build a tower too high for the waters to reach, meaning he wanted to build a tower who could withstand the water, to overbridge the Matrix apocalyptic incident and avoid the memory loss, avoid the shattering of the water, avoid to have to start all over again. So you have this motto, Trahor Fatis, I am drawn by fate. When you can't travel to heaven, you will rule in hell instead. And you have this book, The Cult of the Black Cube. And in it, they have a rite they call the Rite of Chains. And part of that ritual is, Master, I offer you my future, my dreams and hopes. And the master here is, of course, the black cube, is the demiurge Ninurta Saturn. In this card, we also see a man. He has stabbed a gorgon in the head, and the head is very big. And you might be drawn to Medusa and the myth of Perseus. And they have taken this head down to earth, and Perseus did just that in the Greek mythology, that he cut the head of Medusa and took it with him to earth. And then he used the force, the power against his enemy. One more time, you see this motif to turn the sword against the enemy or use the enemy's force for own advantage in some way and form. And the head is laying there on the ground. And interpretation of it can be to become a giant in matter, if you can't become a giant in the metaphysical. I am drawn by fate. And the head is stabbed in the left eye. And that's the reason why I talked about this left and right eye, of course. Because it is an important detail here. When the storms comes, the water, they will build their tower. The goal becomes to overbridge the old matrix with the new one, technology. To have knowledge, memory intact after the flood. If they succeed, they will rule over you. Your memory is lost, and they will have their memory intact. Knowledge Mem. So if they can overbridge the matrix and not fall, the tower doesn't fall, but withstand the waters. They can manage to pull through this matrix shift through technology, because they can't do it with spirit. They have to do it with the tower. They want their memory intact to the other side. And the mining starts again with you in mind. And you can see the technology push through DARPA and for CERN. And DARPA and CERN gave us internet together. The idea to control us or to turn us into androids, to use the technology against us. But this time they will connect you to their machine, the tower, and mind you, your digitalized DNA. They want to have you in an eternal loop. The search for eternity begins with you. The tower is also the glue between the matrix thresholds. You have put the structure in place. Now they don't need you anymore because we have built the infrastructure, a global infrastructure, because there is a global infrastructure we're talking about. It is not only 3 pyramids on Giza Plateau, but rather you will find the pyramids everywhere. And this technology is based on similar premises. Therefore, they couldn't do it on their own. There are too few, but we are many. And if they control us, and if we do their bidding, sooner or later, they will have the infrastructure in place. And now we have become a threat to them. Because in order for us to put their infrastructure in place, they need to share knowledge with us. For example, you have to read, know some math in order to do their work for them, because it's a technology, advanced technology. So this is a war over time, and we are at its end. He, Nimrod, also gradually changed the government into tyranny. He also said he would be revenged on God if he should have a mind to drown the world again, for that he would build a tower too high for the waters to be able to reach, and that he would avenge himself on God for destroying their forefathers. Meaning that I think he was in Enki line from the beginning, but changed. And I think a lot of the priest class who was into the Marduk fold, when they saw that the tower fell and they failed, I think the despair made them to draw the conclusion that it was better to rule in hell than to serve in heaven. It doesn't mean that they won't try to put a new tower in place, but they have a different aim. Maybe they have given up hope to ascend. Maybe they know that they need to spark the soul. And you can argue that they have the soul intact because they reincarnate back, some kind of a metaphysical. They have some kind of a component in them that allow them to reincarnate. But what I'm saying here is that the soul, the spark, is so far removed within them. And if it becomes their reality, their aim, their focus, then that is where the mind is. The technology has become their thing. And they are focused on that. Therefore, it becomes their reality. Saturn is the beginning and the end. Saturn is Alpha and Omega. When we have reached the limit of mind, the mining stops. The bodily death becomes a necessity. We have become a threat to them. Too much noise or memory means the flood. But if they can turn us into an android state, the new ape state, the threat is no more. So now they are talking about to digitize our DNA, to make us into androids, to take away everything that is humane in us, to make us like controlled slaves. And they are quite open with this. If you read what they say, that is exactly what they're saying. Can they do it? Well, I think one thing is very important here. If that becomes our reality, that these people are invincible, that we can't do anything about it, then that becomes our reality. So there's a lot of propaganda going on here. We can do things about it, and we should, and we have to, and we will. But it will be a hard time for humanity, and a lot of darkness and strife will occur. We have a lot of sacrifice going on, attributed to Saturn as well. You have Baal Hammon from Carthago. You have Colosseum in Rome. That was a huge sacrifice to Saturn. Colosseum, they had Colosseums before, but it was a completely new state after Vespasian created Colosseum. Maybe with Jewish gold from the Second Temple they destroyed. Now they build this huge Colosseum, and the sacrifice started on a completely new level. And this is a Saturn sacrifice ceremony, where you have a lot of people passive, the ones you want to control, were bred in circus. At the same time, it's a huge sacrifice ceremony to Saturn, or Ninurta, Jehovah's son, the demiurge. And then we have the idea between order and chaos. These people consider themselves to be order, and that they are a necessity to control us, chaos. Remember, we have the blood of Kingu in our vein. That's the ancient one, the chaos, right? We have to be controlled. And once again, you have the stabbing with the eye. So let's decode it. Algol is the demon star, Ras Al Ghul. And Ras Al Ghul you will find in the Batman mythology. And of course, Ras Al Ghul is chaos, and Batman is the good knight, defending the corrupt society, to have it linger on with all this corruption. Now, I'm not saying that I'm on Ras Ghul's side. I am on no one's side here. I think they are both corrupt. Another name is Kaput Algol, and it is Perseus in Greek mythology that cuts the head of Medusa. So what is Kaput Algol? As the star of the tongue, Amia Al Shui, the demon snake. As the star of the left eye, Ras Al Lilia, the head of Lilith. As the star of the right eye, Ras Al Mahashael, the head of Mahashael. Take it a little bit further, I will explain what it's all about. Remember the eye. The Gorgon is stabbed through the left eye. O all-powerful serpent, breathe upon my right eye and empower all means of outward perception. Let the diurnal organs of sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell be transformed into vehicle of the direct apprehension of all manifest reality. May the sacred vision of the dextral gaze here become mine to behold. They are saying that we want to use Medusa's right eye to manifest everything we want in matter or control matter. And they have decapitated chaos, and they have trapped chaos under control, and they want to use the force in matter against us. They have decapitated us, our blood to the ancient ones. And the left eye is the eye of Lilith. As the star of left eye, Ras Al Lilia, the head of Lilith. to use a weapon of the enemy against them. To become a giant in matter and to be able to manifest things into matter. And of course, the best representation of this attitude is the Kaaba in Mecca, because underneath the black cloth you will find Lilith. Under wrap, under control. And Ninurta, Saturn, the demiurge, is Jehovah's son, and that is exactly what they worship. The Muslim faith, the Christian faith, and power up these forces through their behavior, their religious ceremonies, their focus, their mind. They are mind. And want to control chaos. The part of humanity that can get in contact with the ancient ones, because then you can become free. A couple of very important symbols for the Illuminati is this circumpunct, and they say it's the sun. I say it is two things. I think it is Saturn, and I think it is Sirius. I think it is a symbol for the sun behind the sun, or the dot in the middle of the circle. And some more symbols of the Illuminati is the owl and the beehive. Because when the matrix come and we are shut down in memory, they have to replenish the earth. And the bee is a symbol of spreading life. And the owl is a symbol for seeing in the dark. To see what is unknown. Sing a grain of sand in the desert of Seth. Of course, they are another force. And we talked about this force in the first part. And that is the Boatman. And this is two archetypes clashing with each other. And I would say that Dagon should be the aim, because Dagon is one of the ancient ones, and Hoppe Lovecraft is writing about him. And they're perceived to be dark and dangerous, right? But that's the propaganda, because they don't want us to get in contact with them. They existed before us. I remember the Watchers called the Golem God, called Jehovah Enlil the Golem God. Golem God is an egregore we have built up to become a golem. Therefore, I think you should avoid all gods in the light, and we have to withdraw to the dark, where we haven't been manipulated, programmed, and propagandized. There you will find your authentic you. The traumas, the shadows, and everything you can transform into gold. But you have to take it all back and see through the illusions and the lies. So what is a Boatman archetype? What do we want? We want to transform our reality, return with power, continue on with memory, travel through time and space, overbridge the matrix, overcome the rulers, don't want to end reincarnation. We want to come back, but we want to come back with the memory intact, so we don't have to start all over again, but we can start to build up ourselves through transformation and ignite our DNA again, so we can take back everything they've taken from us. But that starts with the transformation of our gold. We have to go into the shadow, into the darkness. And you are like a single grain of sand in the dust of Seth. Because when you start to program that sand, and when the sand runs out, and when you turn it again, you will come back with that memory intact. And that memory is from your metaphysical work. If you never start to work in the metaphysical, then you are just a random sand in the dust of Seth. And you have to start all over again when they turn the hourglass. And that is exactly what they want you to do. With no memory, with no power, you will always end up as a slave to the gods that want to mine you, mine your memory to build up their own. And then you have to beg the gods to give you some memory back. But then you have to rely on this sky gods, this bright gods, this light, this manipulation. Do you trust them? A boatman and a tower, two different sides on the same coin. Both aims at Sirius, one with technology, the tower, one with spirit, the boat. Both have DNA in mind. But we want you to transform your DNA to become gold. We want you to take back everything they have taken from you. And when you do, you stop to give your power away to these forces. Who should you turn to? I would say Dagon and not Enki. There is a technology attached to Enki. They both are attributed to Sirius, 33, but Dagon is an older god than Enki. Enki has a connection with Enlil, and maybe they are playing a game with us. I don't know. Maybe Enki and Marduk have become corrupt. After the tower incident, maybe Marduk's priest class became corrupt, and with them Marduk himself. Remember, he was trapped in the pyramids, for example. The program can become two ways, and this Anunnaki god seems very human to me. Same bullshit, same jealousy, same wars, same everything. So, let's end where we started. I say we have to go back to the womb of Lilith, to the darkness, to where we were unborn. And from there, we have to be born anew. And without the light that shines on us, because the light is manipulated, its aim is to use and abuse us, to make us passive, to make us worship the light. You have to go back into darkness and discover yourself and be reborn anew without the light. And from the darkness, you will see the new plant that will start to grow without the light, because that plant can start to grow through your own power, from your own energy. Now you need a masculine force to make it start to grow. And when it breaks the surface, it will have enough power to withstand the false light, because you have already stand in the light. You know the light. Now you come back with knowledge of the light. Now you know what you don't want to repeat. And this plant is pure, full of your gold. And it will break the surface, and it will withstand the light, and you will rise up. And when the seaman comes, you will be reborn a boatman, and that will be a new start of the human evolution and experience. And in the next part 3, I will decode the Lord of the Rings. And of course, it is good if you have gone through these two first parts. And I hope you have liked it.
All right. That was amazing. Yeah. God, so much. It's such a grand myth, a history, but as always, you give advice on how we can break away from this historic thing. Yeah. Good takeaways. God, there's so much. I mean, I like how you talked about Nun, the fish. I think of Joshua, son of Nun, in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
When you think of Sirius and the sun, I think of the scientific story that Nemesis might be our counterpart to our sun. So just so many takeaways, and everybody in the audience really was enjoying it and had so much from Odin to the Tower of Babel to everything else. It's just amazing. Yeah, and really appreciate your super chat. Mary Jane, thank you very much for the support. But yeah, the audience has been also very positive, reacting to all the information you've been sharing.
Thank you. Sounds great. And yeah, we have a lot to work for. And I think we live in a very interesting time. Don't despair.
To say the least.
Don't despair. Yeah. Take back all the power. Transform your trauma, your darkness, and you will shine. And the hardest part is to get going. And you will also see a lot of possibilities. And life is only about meaning. And you are a terrible fucking nightmare about to wake up.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, there's possibilities we haven't even seen yet. But like you said, you gave the list of the things we need to do. It's all right there. Don't despair. There is a solution. And yeah, we look forward to your Lord of the Rings. I guess I might be asking, why Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Did you decode something with Tolkien?
Yeah, it's very interesting there. I don't want to talk too much about it, but of course Sauron is the tower, right? And also Lord of the Rings is a reference to Saturn. Saturn is the Lord of the Rings.
Of course.
And you have a lot of manipulation of genes, DNA, creating new different races. And you have the idea of different ages that they go through this Boatman moments in the Lord of the Rings, and it ends with a Boatman moment.
It does, yeah. Well, it's going to be good. Well, everybody expect this to be in May, probably early May, unless the world ends on Monday. But even then, no excuse. You still have to show up and for this presentation.
I will show up with my ghost.
Yeah. No, it's been wonderful and really appreciate it. David, as always, you bring so much amazing gnosis to the table. And yeah, we look forward to the next one. For you people in the chat, great comments. Thanks for showing up. For those of you who support, really appreciate it. And I hope everybody can just absorb this wonderful gnosis and still have a good weekend. Enjoy the little things in life. So I think Graham had to step out. So, which is fine, but I'm sure he'll come back with some feedback when it's time. But David, as always, it is great to have you on, and thank you very much for your time and wisdom.
Thank you, Miguel, and it's an honor to be here and your wonderful audience. And I think a lot of things will be discovered that have been hidden from us. And we will awaken and we will take it all back. But it will be hard work. But hard work also means discoveries, growth, and new ground for us to break. Again, exactly. we have been here before. This time around, we will succeed. Where Noah failed, we will succeed.
Excellent. Yeah. As they say here in America, this ain't our first rodeo.
Yeah. One last thing, if I may.
Sure.
Some people haven't really got the idea of the Boatman archetype. Remember, even though your body breaks down, if you have your memory intact and you can start to work on yourself again, if you have that aim in mind to come back, work with yourself, transform in matter, you will still linger on in matter. If you don't have that pull, you will leave. And that is what the elite want you to do during this time, because they want you gone. Therefore, they have opened up a window for you to leave, but you have to do it with mind as well. If they can fool you to say, you have to leave because everything is evil here, you have to leave, go to heaven, you are an animal, there is nothing to you more than your body, then if you have that in your mind, you will lose your pull into matter. You need to focus that I won't go back, I want to fight, I want to take over. And I think that we can have a wonderful experience here in matter together if we do away with the ones who control us right now. And this ain't a prison if you can leave whenever you want through spirit soul travel, then it's not a prison.
Good advice. It's all there. Well, awesome. Well, David, again, thank you very much. We look forward to number 3. And for everybody else, take this gnosis and run. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the moment. And as I always say, write your own gospel, live your own myth. Take care, everybody.